Hey everyone, today Eric and I are going to be talking a little bit about getting started with Metorik, going through it a bit in today's webinar.
Very excited.
Very excited, me too. I'm Bryce, founder of Metorik.
I'm Eric, I'm in charge of marketing here.
And today, together, we are going to have some fun showing you Metorik.
Yeah, we've never done a demo like this or a webinar like this, so just the two of us sitting here, so it should be fun.
Yeah, so forgive us if
we're a bit awkward.
Yeah. Cool, so we'll start in here on the dashboard,
which
is the heart of Metorik. Eric, take it away.
Yeah, so kind of with the dashboard, we have a few different layouts by default. So we've got this default layout, we've got a customer's layout as well. And here you can basically see a summary of all your different metrics. So, we've got revenue, we've got orders. If you set up costs on your products, you'll be able to see a profit as well. And we'll show you how to do that a bit later as well. But if you were looking for a more customer-focused dashboard, you could click here for the customers one. We've got a products one as well. And you can also customize your own dashboard as well.
Yeah, which is pretty fun.
Which is pretty fun.
We'll save that maybe for a bit.
We'll save that. Because when you start creating your own custom segments, you can add these to the dashboard as well. On the right-hand side, you've got your recent events. So these are going to come into your Metorik account live as they happen in your store. And you can also change these, to orders, customers. If you run a WooCommerce subscription store as well, that will be here as well. You can change that. And then, again, you've got the date picker. So you could look at today's sales. We don't know. Bear in mind, this is a demo store.
The data's not perfect.
the data's not perfect, but let's have a look at, for example, this month. We got some. Yeah, and then back to the default one.
Yeah, and important to keep in mind here that at any point in time you can compare the numbers that you're looking at to a different period. The default, the previous period, but we could change this up, and particularly useful is looking at maybe this month, Jan 21 compared to Jan last year. So we can do that here very easily and see what the numbers look like there compared to that. Now we've jumped into the reports. So the reports it's a big subject, and we could probably do a couple of videos on them alone. So I think today we'll just kind of run through some of the main ones that you need. Yeah.
So we've got the revenue report, and it shows you, as it describes, your revenue. So again, with any period, you can kind of break down your revenue and see on a daily basis, for example, how many orders, and on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis as well, if you've got that period selected.
Even hourly can be useful. Not so much for a month, but maybe for a day.
It just depends on what kind of store you're running. If you have a lot of sales coming in every hour, it could be interesting to analyze, every Tuesday or whatever, there's a huge spike at this time. So
for sure.
The data's in your hands.
Yeah, and with the revenue report, this is all exportable, of course. So if you want to work with it outside of Metorik, no problem. When you export as well, you're going to get a few more numbers to do with totals in each period. So that can be really useful. Just jumping down a bit here, we've got the revenue group by report, which is something you'll see a bit through Metorik. Here we're just seeing revenue group by country. We could do, by state, which is useful. We could do by payment method. Also really useful to see where are your sales actually coming from, and some stats for that. So for each payment method, what is the average order look like? And the growth, of course, compared to that previous period. So with this, something that we'll talk about a bit, but we're very focused on kind of giving you transparency into the numbers that you see in Metorik. When we give you a total 65 orders in December through Stripe, we want to actually show you what those 65 orders are. So when you click onto that, you'll actually be able to see the data behind it. But we'll explore this section a bit in detail.
We'll jump back into the segmenting section. So you've got the revenue report, then there's the profit report as well. This will only show once you've set your cost, but it's very similar to the revenue report, except that it also will factor in your costs as well. So,
exactly.
As I said, we'll show you a bit later, but you can set costs on the product and your variations. You can set transaction costs, shipping costs, and even a custom extra cost as well. So maybe you want to set an advertising cost to add to all the products, or an extra packing cost or something, and then that's going to show as well. So very similar to the revenue report. And there's also the orders report, also similar. It just brings in a few other interesting metrics to do with new versus returning customers, orders grouped by status, payment method, and billing and shipping country as well. And I think there are a few more as well, just about like the item count distribution and order value distribution.
Especially like depending on the type of business you are, spend by day, spend by hour, really like kind of interesting reports because they can help you decide when you should be focusing your marketing efforts. Like now these days with like Facebook advertising, Google advertising, you have that control over like when your ads are getting shown. But just by having that control, you actually need to know when to show it. So
yeah, for sure.
People use these kind of reports with that in mind. But we'll maybe show a couple more here. Devices is pretty fun. Just to quickly show, you can see like sales by device, desktop versus mobile. This report specifically is even enhanced further if you integrate Google Analytics, which is one of our integrations. Then you can actually see the conversion rate by desktop, by mobile, by operating system, browser. Really helpful for finding like problems that your website is having on a certain device. Could be like mobile, you notice the conversion rate's low. Okay, well, maybe something's wrong on checkout. Similarly, like if you're seeing a very, low numbers in Safari, that could be an issue. So it's a pretty fun report to use. Jump into the sources report.
And then with the sources report, this one doesn't have great data, but let's see, I think just because it's demo, let's just open it up a bit more. But basically, if you're running any like UTM campaigns, like for example, maybe you're sending out some emails to your customers and they've got certain UTM tags, you'll be able to also then track these back as well. So let's say you had a summer sale and that had a UTM parameter.
You'll be able to see the report for that,
as well as all the referring websites as well.
And here, like you can see, like our app has referred some sales, so let's just look into that and see what that looks like. But we can see those 3 orders and actually see where they came through, how much they were for. So a lot of transparency behind those numbers there. A customers report is also pretty useful to have a quick look at, where the focus is really here on just looking at customers that joined in a given period. So we're looking at the last 6 months now, and we can see like 678 customers joined, how many orders they went on to make, and of course like what their average lifetime value is. Really useful because when you see a number like that, 111, you can factor that into like how much you want to spend on acquiring new customers. If you know your average lifetime value is 111 and you know your margin might be 30%, so you just don't have the room, let's say, to spend $150, $200 on acquiring customers, these numbers help you actually figure out what should I be spending on each new customer acquisition. And kind of similar to that, if we go down here, we can see a breakdown of customers by the join month. And this will actually change if you change the period. But join month is really useful because it almost gives you insight into like different cohorts that you have. All right, our August 20 cohort of 111 customers, this is what they look like. This is the average LTV over their lifetime. And again, really useful for like specifically, if I was doing all time here, I find this can be really useful to look at certain months like December, where, traditionally the holiday season, and it's interesting to see like what do those customers end up looking like down the line? Like what is the average LTV of that cohort? And that's what this report is intended for.
And perhaps like if a December cohort has a high LTV, then LTV lifetime value, then that when it comes around to doing your Google ad spend for December, maybe you can actually allocate some more. Yeah. And as you should, most likely if you are gonna, you should be getting more sales, spend a bit more money on your ads. Exactly. But it's good to get that number like definitively and not just be like umming and ahhing.
And another thing that we do here on the customers report, breaking down like sales by like role. If you've got different roles on your site, that can be really useful to see. Customer stats grouped by like the country, state. Again, down here by shipping details. This is a pretty fun one, a heat map. I'm not sure how it'll work with all the demo data, but let's have a look. Oh, very nice. So we can see like, there's a few little in the ocean, but mostly the good data here where we can see, all right, in Asia, and then, zero into a certain area and see what are those 29 customers, where are they based in these regions? And
they're based very rural.
So this is a pretty
I didn't know, well, I guess it's rural, so they might have some record players there still for ad. This is a demo record store,
exactly.
by the way.
So
Shopper records.
We've also got the orders report, one thing I just skipped over down here, which is really useful, seeing like orders grouped by like, some of these factors as well. So again, just super useful to like take these data and the totals that you're used to seeing about your store. Like if you ask, your typical store owner, what's your monthly sales? They can probably answer that. But if you say, what are your monthly sales ranked by like state in a certain region or payment method, it's traditionally been very hard to get these numbers. So that's kind of what our focus is with it.
And if you do have someone asking you a question about, like someone in your company, and you want to easily give them the information, if you see the export button, you just click it and it'll pull that this table into a CSV.
Especially useful for like, I find like with like zips or states, cities where there's a lot of data. We're always happy for you to look at this data in Metorik, but it just might be easier to work with it outside of Metorik. So export it, you can get a list of 10,000 zip codes and all the sales for it. We've seen really interesting use cases for this where like people trying to figure out where they should invest in fulfillment centers based off zip codes and stuff, the data there. So really cool. One other report I think we'll jump into before we move on is like the brands one. This is quite cool as well because it'll actually allow you to see like your sales by brand, what that looks like. So we can see like Blue Note, okay, we've got 2,300 sold in that period, and even profit numbers by brand, really cool.
Yeah.
But we could spend all day in the report, so we probably shouldn't.
And with we won't jump into the subscription section here.
Yeah, we'll save that for another.
But I think we'll do another webinar, just based on subscriptions. But as you can see, if you do run a WooCommerce subscription store, then you'll be able to get a whole bunch of active subscriptions. MRR. It's not great.
Not much.
It's not great. I kind of looked in it before.
But a bit of a preview of what it might look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll jump now into like the resources and all these pages. I'll let you start. I'll get you back to square one.
Thanks. So this is the segmenting system. If you have a look on the side, I'll just jump back out to the dashboard. You can see all of these down the side here are like the resources that you can segment on. Kind of like to think of it as your own personal assistant that can answer any question about your data as quickly as possible. So it's a lot cheaper than having someone on hand to answer your questions. But basically, if you want to delve a bit deeper than the stats in the reports and you want to like kind of create some more custom segments, this is where to go. So, for example, just a simple one like orders are greater than, let's say, $100. So see how many there are, and it's going to automatically kind of add as you go. And what's cool about it is that you can add as many filters as you want. So if you needed to add 9 filters to get a very specific like subset of your data, no problem. We can now have a look at like billing, or maybe billing or shipping country.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Billing country, let's say United States. 203, and then I don't know. Status, yeah. So order status is in, let's say completed. So
you'll just notice that it's like completely automatic there. If you wanted to, of course, you can turn off that instant segmenting feature and just segment like that, but it's definitely a lot more fun when it's just kind of happening as you update things, right? Yeah.
And so now you know that like from the United States, you've got a total of, let's say, 149 orders with a gross of like $25,000 of orders that are over $100. Maybe that's not such a interesting segment to you, but it's still interesting. But you
for sure. Well, I mean, and just like being down here in the totals, you can expand this. We can actually see of those 149 orders, 146 customers ordered. So there would have been a few repeat orders there, a few repeat customers, and again like a breakdown of costs and profit. So really useful if like you wanted to look at a segment for a certain region or time period or whatever it is, because of course you can add in something else like the created date. If you want to do something like that, you can then see in an instant what that segment looks like in terms of the profit, margin, everything.
And I think like even just as a simple segment, that I think is very helpful if you're running a store which has a physical product that requires some sort of fulfillment. Like even something as like simple as status, just like looking at orders that need to be maybe shipped today. I think I've got a custom status here, but let's say in processing, that's generally the WooCommerce. So we've got 683 orders that are currently in processing. That's handy to see. What about if you need to get these orders to the warehouse? If you're doing that internally, well, you could actually set up an automatic export that every day or maybe every week, it depends how often you do your shipping, like it can just pull this list and send it to your warehouse. So
that might be a good chance to talk about exporting.
Yeah, exactly. So you would just click the export button, and then you have some settings about including certain custom fields. You can customize the columns as well. You can do a 1 row per line item so that each line item in the order is on its own row, just depending on how you guys prefer to handle the data. And then, at this point, you can either just export it and it would be downloaded to your computer, or the cool thing is you could then, say like let's say orders to be shipped maybe this week. And then you would put in, like fulfillment at whatever
exactly. Or you could even do Slack if you had a Slack team that you want to send it to.
Yeah, so it can be like sent directly to a Slack channel, and then you would say the frequency. So that means on a Monday at 9 a.m. it's basically going to look at what orders. Nice. Metorik.com. And then we would just create the export. So on Monday this is going to be sent out. And we actually have a section here for export. So you can click here and you can say, oh, well, I've got this export, which is going to happen every Monday. You can run it now if you need it now. And then you also have a log of all your exports that have been done. And if you're an admin, I think you'll be able to see all the exports that have been pulled of any other team members. So it can
be really good for just like keeping an eye on like the data that your team's accessing, making sure that everything's in line with your expectations of how they're using the app, but really useful for that. Or even just to check the progress of like a long export. If you're exporting 1 million orders, it's not going to happen instantly. It takes time. It might take, half an hour, an hour, but you want to keep an eye on it. You can do that all from here.
Yeah, and with a bigger export like that, which takes some time, we'll just let you know when it's done, so you can continue.
You can forget about it.
You can forget about it. Forget about it.
There's a lot to kind of dive into here with in terms of segmenting, but orders, customers, products, everything's possible.
We actually have some customer ones that we ship by default with the app. So we've got for example, so the ones with the lightning bolt are the ones that we've done. Let's have a look at, for example, like a VIP customer. So this is a customer that is one of your most important ones. You can optimize and change kind of what that figure should look like, but these are your top performing customers, or if you want to say your most loyal customers. So these are the good people that you could maybe send an email to. You can pull this list and get those emails again, or you can use some sort of email automation, which we do have as well. We're not going to cover it in this webinar, but we have a module called Metorik Engage, which you can see here. And this uses the same segmenting system. So you could say when a customer has a total spend of at least $300, send them a thank you email.
Exactly.
Basically, saying thank you with a coupon code. That's unique to them. So when the email gets sent, it's created in your WooCommerce store. Yeah,
and as you can kind of notice here, we have a lot of other segments. So the idea here is that if we create a custom segment, and we could just add a couple things on here, like last ordered, let's say over 90 days ago. And if we're happy with that and we want to use those numbers, and by the way, totals down here. Some really useful ones like the average LTV, average items, what % of these customers returned. Yeah, really useful.
And now this segment is it's basically it's your VIP lost so it's like your lost customers that are your VIPs. So you might have another lost customers automation for just your regular customers.
Yeah, that's the point.
But these ones might get a special email with a bigger coupon code, because that when they spend bigger. So it's worth having a different email for them.
Yeah, it's really important to when you're targeting customers that you do it in a more targeted way. Give the right offer at the right time to the right customer. Don't try and do one size fits all. It just doesn't work for e-commerce. But here we can choose just for me or whole team. And what that means is that now if I'm logged into my account and Eric logs into his as a team member, if I've said the whole team, he'll be able to see this. If I say just for me, it's mine.
Exactly.
And then once you're done, any segments will actually show up on the segments page as well, customer segments. Really useful just to kind of see them all side by side. So we can see customer order count 2, join Jan, all these different ones here.
And you can see the LTV for each segment as well. So you can know that this specific segment actually has a high LTV. So maybe I'm going to advertise to them.
And it all ties back to the dashboard, which I think we can jump into quickly.
Well, I think we'll create, I wanted to create a product segment.
That's a good idea.
And then we'll show you. So what we'll do is we'll create, so this, as I said, this is a fictitious record store, so you can't purchase. But what we'll do is we'll create a segment of products just for Jazz Records. So if we save this segment, we'll call it, so Jazz Records. So click save. So now that's available to us from this menu up here. I like to have a bit of a think sometimes. Okay, so there it is. So we can just select it. But now, if we come to the dashboard, maybe we want to have a different custom dashboard for each genre of records. This could apply to like any store. Maybe you want to have, like, if you're an apparel store, you want to have a dashboard for t-shirts, for jeans, for tracksuit pants. You know, we've got some customers which is like an event-based business, and they have a different dashboard based on certain events. And you can spin up and delete these as you go. So yeah.
Same principle applies as well about like, well, we'll customize it and I'll show you what I mean. But yeah, if we were just to start on like maybe the products one.
So we'll do the products one. And what we can now do is we can click cut. So this is all products, but we want to create one for just Jazz.
Yeah.
So we could customize this and we can call this Jazz Records. Again, same with the segments you can do for the whole team or just me. And then we'll save this as a new segment. And now it's created a copy of it, as you can see here. And we can like come through and say, well, these ones are all for a bunch of like all records. So we'll delete them. And then we can, let's have a look. We'll get rid of worst selling categories.
And then maybe actually let's also go up here and I'm just going to save and refresh. And then let's just go in here and because sometimes if you don't see it disappear straight away, it might just disappear after a refresh like that. But let's add a new card for the segment we created.
Yeah, so the segment total to get the revenue in.
Okay. So yeah, the thing you can do here is that any of these resources, and we're just choosing products here, we could do customers and we could grab one of those ones that we just created to show a stat from that segment. But since we're doing a Jazz focus one, we're going to go in here and do Jazz Records.
We'll display all stats.
All stats, all right.
And then
choose a color.
Nice.
You like that?
Yeah.
I like the purple.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we've got that card.
So we can bring that up to the top now. And then even if we just save now we've got the revenue for just Jazz Records. We're looking at a big period, but we'll be able to change it as well. We can now come through here. We'll edit this one and we can actually just select, rather than creating a new card, we'll select this. And so now we've got top selling Jazz, which we can update as well. And then what we'll do is I think we can maybe do a worst selling Jazz as well. So we'll do this and we'll create a segment list. So this is going to be the actual individual records as opposed to a total. So we'll do products, Jazz Records, and then I think we've got to do a count. We'll do a count of 5.
And you can notice they're still in the order of like best selling.
So now we'll just click this to do this one.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. And then we'll just do worst.
And sometimes if it, we just need a couple clicks. Switch it over to here. Yeah. Sometimes it's changed, but it hasn't really changed until you change the order by. But yeah, we've got that there, and we can see worst selling.
Yeah, well, we should probably just label it.
Oh, good idea. We don't want to get confused.
Oh, not in capitals. Oh my goodness, I've lost everything. Worst selling Jazz, and then 5. Cool. Now you've got like this custom dashboard. And what's cool is we're looking at this period, but we can also now say, well, let's look at just, this month, for example. And now these are all going to think. And now you can see that like this month we've sold nearly 6K in Jazz. This has been our best one. This has been our worst one. And we could replicate this for every genre that we have in the store.
And something to touch on here we haven't gone into yet. All of these resources, whether it's an order, a customer, or a product, you can click on them and actually see our whole page
as well.
Dedicated just to that. So if we look at this one here, we can see for the product our cost, sale price up here, category, stock numbers, but then more importantly the report for it. And we're looking at Jan here, so we can see like Jan sales per day and profit, some other totals down here. And then of course, like sales for the product grouped by something like the country or the status payment method, totally up to you. If you're a subscription store, you might want to see by order type, so you can see like how many renewal orders and how many new subscriptions are coming in for that product. And then we can actually view like the data in it and click on that and view like these are the orders for that product. Similarly, orders, click on an order, then we've got a page with like all the stats for the order. So similar to what you'd see inside your WooCommerce or Shopify admin, but in Metorik, and again, just like completely integrated into everything. So if we're looking at an order like this, click on any of these products, go to this one, have a look at the sales for that one. We can jump back here and change the status.
We can look at the customer, and we can also look at the customer profile as well that's associated with it.
That's a great idea. So yeah, customer profiles are like pretty cool, and I think especially when it comes to things like customer support or like trying to understand your customers better, where you might want to look at each one individually. This is the way to do it, because you can just see in a glance, important stats like total spend, LTV, averages, their details. You can leave a note, which is really useful if you just want to make a note like, VIP, take care of Daija.
And then you've got the timeline there, which will just show all interactions that the customer has had with your store.
Yeah.
And if you have any email automation set up, they'll appear there as well. So it's like, received email automation 1 on this day as well, and then you can see that resulted in an order, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. Really useful to actually like see how things transpired. It's not just like you got an order. It's just, there's a story to it always, and it's like an email was sent, they did something like that. So that's what the timeline is really intended for. And again, just like with everything else, click on that, you can actually see the data behind it. So we've jumped through quite a few things. Where should we go
we'll
next?
have a look at the carts just quickly. So we also do have cart tracking and cart reports available to you. So what we'll do is we'll switch over to this store here. And the carts will come or should come into your Metorik account live. So we've already set one up here.
But we're not going to show you carts in Metorik that like are just made by like guests without any email or any details attached. So as soon as there's actually an email in there,
cool.
Eric,
and
maybe put in your name.
Yeah, we'll put in Eric B. So
EB.
Yeah,
like
EB.
All right.
Cool. And then let's pop back into here, and if we even go back to the dashboard, let's have a look. We've got a cart dashboard here, and we should see that cart. So if we click on it, there's that cart that we just created. And since it's also, I've made an order on this store, it's going to link me to my profile as well. Which and this can always be really exciting, just to see the carts coming through. And you can also see them in the cart segmenting page here. So here,
and it's not showing just because we do have some caching. So just for a few minutes, if we just looked at it, it's not going to show it right away. But I can just change the order by, and then we can see that one appear at the top.
Yeah, and then we also have some cart reports as well. Again, the data here is not great, but you'll be able to see, started, how many abandoned, how many placed, and if you are running Metorik Engage with abandoned cart emails, you'll be able to see how many have been recovered as well, and also just some metrics on the most added and abandoned.
Yeah, which is interesting, because if you do see like a certain product is like most abandoned by a lot, that can kind of indicate maybe we need to change the pricing, maybe we need to communicate better during the checkout experience. Something's causing them to abandon it. So that's what it's really useful for.
Yeah, so that's cart tracking.
You can send abandoned cart emails as well through our Engage feature, but we won't dive into that too much. But that's definitely more on the recovery side of things. Recovering these lost carts. Even if you don't use us to send emails and you have a cart like this that you want to recover, you can even just get a cart recovery URL right here, and it's just going to work because what we could do is just go here, and you can kind of just see what happens, where it'll recover the cart, send them to checkout, add the items to the cart if it's not there already, and then they can just finish checking out.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we dive into the next part though, I think let's just touch on coupons, which is the last kind of missing resource here. With coupons, really useful just to see like how each of your coupons are performing on the store. So we can see a certain period, like last 6 months usage. You can see, all right. Yeah.
Something that we see a lot of our customers doing is influencer marketing, and that's obviously very common now. So if you were to provide your influencers with a certain coupon code, then you can come here and like just track easily, like, oh well, that influencer has made X amount in sales. If you're paying them a cut of the sales, for example, you can easily see, oh, they made 100 in sales, I'm going to give them 10% on that coupon, and again, you could do that every single month. So you can just select it and then run the report for the month, and then you can easily, you can easily really save some time there.
Yeah, there's a lot of use cases for it. It really depends, like, again, your situation, what your needs are. But like with all the other resources, click on a coupon, you can see a page for it. So a chart, some more stats around it, and then like breaking down even coupon usage by location or payment method. So, just really cool, really useful. And of course, like you can make a segment here as well. We could say, show me all coupons with an amount discounted over a certain amount or a certain number of sales generated. It's totally up to you and all exportable. Where do we go next?
Let's go digest, I think.
Digest. All right.
We'll really touch on that.
Yeah, digests are basically our way of like delivering these reports and numbers to you without you having to come into Metorik. So, you can do that by email. We've got Sven set up a couple here. You can send it to your whole team by email, or you could do Slack. We'll just go through the setup to make a new one. Let's call this like a Jazz Weekly.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. You can give it a custom subject. So, if I'm sending this to someone on the team who doesn't even know what Metorik is, I might just want to be very specific and say, your weekly Jazz sales report. Sounds catchy. Create the digest. And we can pop in an email, like who to send it to. They don't have to have a Metorik account, which is also really useful if you want to send it to like stakeholders outside that they don't need an account for Metorik. They don't need to log in and see everything, but you just want to give them certain numbers.
And maybe you've got like some sort of external marketing or business consultant, so they can receive the digest as well. Yeah,
that's a good use for it as well. But we could do whole team or custom. Let's just do custom and choose Eric, sending it to him. And then you choose when. So weekly, that's easy. What day of the week, time, in your time zone. So this store set to Africa time. Not sure how that happened, but we'll work with that. And we could say 11 a.m. And we'll try to grab that time zone automatically from your store. So depending on what your store has, it should mirror that. And then we can just generate the report. And we've got some, like the dashboard, very similar built-in one for the like general one, products, subscriptions. But of course, it's fun to customize. We'll start with the products as a template, like we do with the dashboard, but click customize. But it's already pre-filled it with the general one since I did that. What we could do though is clear all cards.
And it's a very familiar layout, so we can just go in and select that Jazz segment again and pretty much build up the exact same dashboard, but in a sales report email.
Exactly.
So we can do all stats, and then we can put in a segment list. Yeah, and also that way, like if you want to have like some historical records in your email or in your Slack, we generally recommend with Slack setting up like a specific Metorik Slack channel, and then these are just going to get sent there, and you'll have like a beautiful like historical log of like sales, Jazz record sales on a weekly basis.
If you want, you can get a preview, but then the last part's really just deciding again like who do you want to edit this. If it's just for you, that's fine, but like you can still have it send to someone else, but not let them edit it. And if the digest should send, even if there were no sales. But then just literally save and activate it. It's done. It's going to start sending. You don't need to do anything else besides send now if you'd like to get it right away. The last part, maybe the settings, could be fun to jump into.
Let's do costs and then
costs?
we'll,
All right. So the cost system, it's still pretty new, pretty fresh at the time of recording this. So it might change by the time you look at it next, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, basically you've got a dashboard of all your costs, but before you get that dashboard, what you would need to do is actually go in and set your product cost. So the first time you log into this, it's gonna we have like a setup wizard, as they used to call it back in the day, which will kind of guide you through importing the costs. So either you could come through, set them one by one. You could download a template, or you can actually even sync the costs with WooCommerce and
or Shopify. And like typically we'll see like if you're already using WooCommerce or Shopify to set your costs, it might just work with your flow. You import your products there, you import your costs. That's fine. So just basically a setting that you can turn on when you set this up to say, I don't want to set the costs in Metorik for products. I just want to get that from Woo and Shopify. And
then anytime you make any changes, it's going to be reflected in Metorik.
Exactly.
And so you can set this on your product costs. If you run variations or variants in Shopify, you can set it on the variation level. And then, as I mentioned before, there are some other costs as well. So shipping costs, this will bring in, all the countries that you ship to, as well as your shipping methods. And you can set up like a catch-all backup rule that if neither of these are matched, you can just apply like a 2.5.
And we're not trying to be your like accounting software and give you, up-to-date exact profits for your company. It's not what Metorik is for.
Yeah.
We're not accounting software. We're like reporting and analysis and more for like a high level overview, but we've tried to make this as flexible as possible. You should be able to cover most use cases. It's not going to be precise.
Yeah, I think what that is saying is don't run these numbers for your tax return.
Yeah, definitely don't. Like when it comes to this, you need to actually look at what you did pay for your shipping costs, what you paid DHL or UPS or whoever you're using, and we just don't integrate in that sense. Our idea here is just to say, well, like, I know that for my like flat rate, I just want to have a cost of $5 for that, maybe 1% of the order total. If you insure it, maybe there's a cost on your end you pay 2% per order total to insure it. That's what this is for. We've got that backup. One other thing we'll touch on is the transaction cost, which again, like we don't know exactly what you've paid to your payment processor. There are hundreds. It's just like not what we're in the business of doing, but what we can do is get you pretty close. So if you're using, when you pay Stripe, it's 30 cents and maybe 2% of the order total. Input that in here, and we'll use that to generate your like cost, profit, and all those other reports. And you've got like a tool in here just for kind of turning on that setting and refreshing all your costs and profit reports. But
so once you've done that and you've applied them, you've run the costs on all your orders, then you're going to be able to see these numbers on the dashboard. Something else that's also really nice is just seeing your inventory cost on hand as well. So you can see like the cost of your inventory and also the value as 100%. Well.
If you're like, insuring your like stock in your warehouse, like you need to know kind of, it's one thing to just know you've got 2,000 or 3,000 items in there, but exactly. Some could have a cost of $5, $10, $20, but also what's the potential of it based off your current sale prices.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's the main features. Obviously, there's a bunch more reports that you can delve into and things like that. But we'll just jump into the settings. So we're all about letting you kind of customize,
make Metorik your metric,
and trying to give you as much fine granular control as we can.
Yeah, and then we can go in here and actually there we saw that time zone was incorrectly set to Africa. We're based in Melbourne, so maybe we want to enter that instead. That's what we can do in here. Change like the name, URL, some other ones. Most of the settings though that you're going to play around with are under here. So we've got report settings, giving you just a lot of control over like how we determine your numbers. It's not just us saying this is how much you sold. It's us saying this is how much you sold based off your settings. What statuses you want to exclude. If you want to include paid orders and free orders or just paid. It's again very determined.
For example, you might be running a store which has a lot of free orders, and that might be like bloating your figures.
Because if you had like 5,000 orders, but 4,000 were free orders, knowing your average order value,
it's going to mess it up.
It's not going to be right.
Definitely going to mess it up.
So you want to exclude those.
And then also some subscription settings as well.
Yeah, exactly. And
some custom field settings.
Yeah, custom fields, whole other topic, but really useful when you need it, and that's what the settings here for. Dates.
Yeah, we've got some date settings.
So this one we don't typically recommend changing too much, but down here it can be really useful to say like, well, on the dashboard when I'm looking at the top right, and just open that up over here. When I'm looking at the top right here and choosing from one of these ranges, I can say, well, I want to have this quarter.
Yeah, maybe there's a certain period which you're often analyzing, so you want to be able to see that. From
100%. There we go. This quarter. These other settings can be useful depending on your region. So, like if you're in Australia, financial year is July 1st, so that's what I probably want to have set here, because when I look at a period such as, and you can see it all updated down here, year to date, I want to look at it from the start of July. I don't want to look at it from January. It's just not relevant. So I just got to refresh, and then I'll do year to date, and you can see July 1st. Same for the financial month, financial week, when they start. Status settings, also really cool, just for, again, customizing it a bit more for your needs. It could be as simple as just changing it into a different language or giving it a completely different name, icon, color. We want to fit into your workflow, so that's like the setting here intended for that.
Definitely. Integrations.
Yeah, integrations is really cool.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, we've got the Slack one, we've got Google Analytics for your conversion rates, and then if you use one of those help desks, you can then bring in either, so let's say, for example, you're responding to a ticket in Help Scout, you can bring in the metric data into Help Scout so that when the ticket comes through, if it matches the same email as the customer in your WooCommerce or Shopify store, then it's going to kind of say, well, that's the LTV, that's the orders that they've done, and rather than jumping into Metric or WooCommerce or Shopify, you'll be able to see.
Yeah, and I think if we pull open maybe the Zendesk one here, they're going to make us verify. We're not going to do that. Maybe Freshdesk, see if they're not doing a capture, just so we can show you a quick little screenshot of what it looks like. All right. Over here, there we go, down here. So we can see like in Freshdesk, it's going to show some stats, and does that for Help Scout, Zendesk, whatever you're using. Last one is probably, connection and tools. Again, when you need it, it's there. We're not going to dive into it too much, but the team is really cool. So when we mentioned your team before, it's not just about like giving people an account like your login. You can give them their own login, but also with different roles. So I might say like, well, I want to make an account for my fulfillment team. And spell fulfillment at Metorik, and I might pop in and say, well, I only want them to have Packer access. I don't want them to see any of the reports because they don't need to. It's not part of their job. I don't want them to have access to those. So the role system is really useful for kind of fine.
We can see some of the, if we have a look at the click on more, we'll be able to just have a look at kind of the breakdown of the different roles.
Exactly, which is really useful.
Yeah, you can turn on and off, like exporting, for example. If you have maybe an external consultant, you want them to see the data, but you obviously don't want them to get it. So you can give that control as well.
Yeah.
And the great thing is you can have as many team members as you want. So the pricing doesn't work based on seat.
No, we don't do that.
So if you wanted to add 100 people,
go for it. Yeah, we've got some teams that have hundreds. Like, we're not a company that's trying to milk you for every dollar we can in ways like that. Our pricing, which we can touch on really quickly, is completely based off your order volume and nothing else. You get every feature besides for choosing between Metorik Core and Metorik Plus, which is Engage. But like everything we showed you today in that video, it doesn't matter how many orders a month you it doesn't matter what features you use, it's the same price, but it's how many orders a month.
Exactly.
We can see here 500 orders a month, so it goes in there.
Maybe the last thing, just before we finish up, is just multi-store support.
Oh, that's quite cool.
So we'll spend 2 minutes on this and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
If you're still with us now, thank you very much. Appreciate at the time. But basically, one Metorik account can be connected to many different WooCommerce or Shopify stores.
Yeah, and you can see them all side by side.
Exactly. So I think this account is connected to 2. Yeah. So now in our multi-store dashboard, we can see Petlight's not doing so well, unfortunately, but we can see the combined revenue of both those stores.
Yeah, if we did all time, I think maybe might be some numbers there.
Yeah.
There we go. Bit of sales there.
Yeah, which is great. And then the other cool thing is, if you want to just view each store separately, if we go back to did you want to show the multiple?
Oh, well, I was just going to say that, like, you can kind of see here that Petlight's AUD, because these numbers 189. What it's doing, because we've got it set to USD up here, it's converting it all for you. So if you're running 10 stores, different currencies, different locations, don't worry, the totals are going to actually reflect real numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to jump back in?
Yeah, and if we head back into Shopper Records, now we're looking as we were at that, but we'll be able to see up here that we can switch straight to Petlight as well. So if you're running multiple stores, you can easily manage them all and not have to kind of log into one and log out of another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think that's everything. I think that was one take. So that was a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Excuse our awkwardness if it was awkward at all, but I think we're right.
But yeah, thanks for sticking with us if you made it this far, and definitely look out. Oh yeah, well, if you have any questions, needless to say,
help@metorik.com or the help button that you should be able to see.
Here.
Yeah, that you'll see also on the marketing side.
See our faces. Yeah, we're here. Yeah. We want to help. But yeah, we also have some other webinars that we're working on, so just be sure to check those out if you want to learn more about different features of Metorik. And also, if you have any ideas, something you want us to explore with Metorik, send us a message, and we can maybe make a webinar and we'll make it happen.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Right, cheers. Bye.
Bye.